the clairs? How many are there? Which one is your strongest? How do you exercise them? How do you strengthen them? We're going to cover all of that in this very brief introduction to the foundation of your psychic abilities. So hello and welcome. I know most of you are new here because most people find me through my clairs videos. My name is Lauren. I am a psychic development coach, so I teach people how to strengthen their psychic abilities. I'm super passionate about it. I was very lucky to have learned from some amazing people, and I saw a gap online and I wanted to fill it and teach people and have this information accessible to all. So if that's up your alley, if you're wanting to strengthen your abilities, subscribe. I've got tons of videos you can catch up on, and I'm always here to help you at any stage along your journey. So a quick note about me, I went to the Aspen program for psychic development. I also coached there for a year, and I've been coaching students ever since through my online courses and also my free YouTube content. I also work one-on-one and mentor people through my Patreon group. So I've got a lot of practice and I know a lot about the clairs. And side note, I do teach a mini clairs course that's live via group video call twice a year. We've got one coming up in May if you're watching this when it comes out, but again, it happens twice a year. Hop on over to my events page and you're gonna see when the next one is. So first, what are the clairs? The clairs are the foundation to your psychic ability. The clairs are how you receive information. So to understand this, we have to understand that the psychic ability is a skill. It's a muscle. We strengthen this muscle, it gets better, it gets more accurate, more reliable, but that's just the ability itself. Now, when we receive messages, intentionally or unintentionally, we call those psychic hits, psychic messages, psychic information. So that information, those psychic hits, can come through in one of 6 ways, and that's the clairs. So the clairs are how you experience that. So if you ask a question like, what is the next job that I'm supposed to take? And you see a person scrubbing floors, I'm just making something up, then you saw that information, and that's a clair. But other people could hear the information. Maybe they heard janitor. I picked such a random one to use. But that's essentially what it is. It's how. It's not the message in itself, it's how you experience it. And in my practice, I believe that everyone is psychic. Everyone can strengthen this skill. Everyone has these clairs. So if you look at the psychic ability as the ability to connect to a divine source, an animal, a past loved one, whoever it is you're connecting to, a spirit guide, the universe, whatever you believe in, you can use this ability to receive information. And with your clairs, you can answer any question that you ask. You don't need tools. You don't need tarot cards. Don't get me wrong, they're fun. I've got a million behind me. But this is the foundation of your psychic ability. When you understand your clairs, you understand how to receive psychic information and answer any question that you have. Now, how many clairs are there? You're gonna come across people who will have hundreds of clairs names for everything. My personal opinion, I believe there are only 6. And the reason for that is I start with our 5 senses. We have 5 senses already. Our psychic senses are just an extension of each one of our senses. We see, we hear, we taste, we touch, we smell. See, hear, taste, touch, smell. Yeah, that's all 5. And now we have psychic smelling, psychic tasting, psychic seeing. Now, the 6th clair is kind of all of them and none of them. And so that's why we have 6. But I believe that whenever you experience any psychic hit, you can almost always pinpoint one of those clairs as how you receive that psychic message. Now, the root word clair is actually a French word meaning clear. So when we add clairvoyance, we have clear seeing, clairaudience, clear hearing. So that's where the clair names come from. Now, I do have a individual video on each of these clairs. They're really long, they're really in depth, but let's just go over each of them very briefly. First, clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is psychic seeing. Sometimes this is in your mind's eye. Most of the time it's in your mind's eye. It's almost like it's overlaid on your external environment, or it's just like you're watching a movie screen in your mind and you're seeing something play out. Clairvoyance can also be seeing or experiencing things in your peripherals as well. It's sight. Clairaudience is hearing something psychic, and it might be from a source that's not actually in your environment. So you hear a voice when there's no one around, or you hear a sound or music when there's no radio playing. You're hearing information psychically. And often clairvoyance is experienced as thoughts in your head. So it might just come through as like almost like a different voice in your head. There's a big difference between schizophrenia and clairaudience. Actually, somebody did a paper on it, on the difference between it, and I actually love that. I'm gonna just link it down below for those of you. There is a huge difference. Schizophrenia is something you cannot control. It provides harmful messages. That is not clairaudience. Clairaudience can be controlled, and it's usually positive messages if we're doing this right. And sometimes clairaudience can be your own voice, like I think I should do this, but sometimes it comes from another source, like, hey, I think you should do this. Clairsentience is third. Clairsentience is feeling psychic information. So feeling emotions, feeling sensations, feeling physical sensations. So this could be feeling like someone touched you, feeling full body chills, feeling super sad, super happy. It can even be feeling vibration or sensation. So truly it's emotion and physical feelings that don't seem to be coming from you. Like they're random. They come to you psychically. And they usually have some sort of psychic information attached to it. They are a message in themselves. A lot of people who are clairsentient are described as empaths, and that's because they feel other people's emotions so well. It can also be temperature changes. Sometimes people feel when they walk into a room that is colder, and maybe it's not actually colder to everyone else. And that's clairsentience. Clairaudience is psychic smelling. Now, even though you might not have experienced this, a lot of people still do. Sometimes it's smelling something when the source is not actually there. The most common example I hear is when you smell something that's associated with like a grandparent that's passed and they're not actually in the room with you, but all of a sudden you smell their perfume, or you smell the pipe tobacco they used to smoke, but obviously you know there's none of that in your home. This can be more abstract too. You can smell certain things like flowers, and it might be symbolic for something else. Like maybe it's, symbolic for, enjoying life or smelling the roses in life or something like that. It's not always literal. Clairgustance is psychic tasting. When you taste something, again, a little bit less common, but it still happens. Tasting something without actually putting something into your mouth. The one that I find happen most frequently is like when all of a sudden your mouth goes super dry. Sure, there could be absolute explanations for that, but when you're in the middle of a reading, and you experience that, maybe it's psychic. And again, the information that comes through, if it's coming through taste, it might be literal. The answer to your question might be, go eat a tangerine, or it could be symbolic. And we have to really define with taste and smell what those mean, what those tastes and smell mean symbolically, and if it's, again, literal or symbolic. And I go over that more in that video. And the last clair is claircognizance. This is just knowing. This is when you just know something is going to happen, or you know the information. It's usually described as like a really fast download. Like it doesn't take a while. It's usually you get a lot all at once. And that's why I describe it as it's not all of your other clairs. Like it can be, but in a sense, like when you look back at receiving a claircognizant hit, it almost doesn't feel like any of the clairs because it just came so quickly, you just knew. And that's what it's often described as. So claircognizant is often about speed, and it's about the amount of information being a lot, and also the lack of other clairs. But it can also be that you experienced it with all the clairs at once. Like you just got this full body image, you felt it, you heard it, you saw it, like just everything came through. And so claircognizance, for some people, they really describe it as both where you start and where you end with your psychic abilities when it comes to strengthening them. We believe that when we start out psychic, when we're children, everyone is psychic. We have that claircognizant, we just know. But then as we learn to turn off our abilities, not strengthen them, and we're trying to get back into it, it helps us to isolate those other clairs. But when your other clairs are super strong, claircognizance starts to happen more and more and more. And the information starts to come through faster and faster and faster. And so that's why claircognizance in some ways, in some opinions, can be that like pinnacle. I think what it is it's no longer about how, it just is. So even though it's a clair, it's the ability to take all of those hows and just know it. So part of the reason why I wanted to update this video is I get a lot of common questions about the clairs. So I'm going to answer those now. The first one I get asked is, which clair should you focus on first? My opinion as a psychic coach is that you should focus on whatever clair is already strongest for you. I find it's a lot easier to go with your strength and grow that clair and really have it become more reliable before you try to worry about doing any of the other clairs, because it's more helpful to get an understanding of what your psychic ability feels like, of what it feels like to be accurate, before you try to go back to square one. So how do you know which clair is your strongest? I'm going to lead you through an exercise right now. Yes, let's do it. So I want you to psychically answer this question. I have some flowers planted right outside my window here. What color are they? So before I tell you what color they are, and feel free to type it down below what you guess, how did you experience that? When I asked you what color they were, did you see the color? Did you hear a color? Did you feel something that gave you an indication of like what the color could be? Did you taste something that was similar to that color, or smell something that was similar? Really pay attention to how. Whatever way it came through, if it came through, and don't beat yourself up if it didn't, because this is a fast exercise. That's gonna tell you what clair is your strongest right now. It's whatever one came through first. And so if you didn't experience it, try it again, maybe outside of this video. Try to ask yourself a psychic question and start to see and take note of which clair is strongest. Because you might even have more than one that's strong at this point, and that's totally normal. Everyone has kind of like a preferred one, which leads me to the next question that I get asked a lot, which is, I don't like that clair, do I have to use it? And the answer is no. You do not have to use a clair. There's all sorts of stories of people having a clair that's strongest for them and it freaks them out. You can always turn off that clair. Say, no, I don't receive psychic information that way. Give it to me with a different clair. So shifting that clair preference is about 1, shutting it off, and then 2, strengthening another. So next question is usually, okay, how do I strengthen those clairs? And it's all about individual practice. It's about isolating one of those clairs and doing exercises around it to really strengthen it. Or there's exercises that strengthen them as a whole too. And in each of these clair videos, I go over very specific exercises. There's a whole section of each video where I give you exercises to strengthen them. But in general, like one thing I can give you now, exercises. Mercury retrograde, guessing games, guessing games. Guessing games are perfect for your psychic ability. You can turn anything into a guessing game. What lane at the grocery store is going to be open? Try to guess before you can see it. How many emails are in my inbox when I open it this morning? Try to use your clairs to answer that question. It's a lot better when we know the answer. What was the weather yesterday in Tulsa, Oklahoma? Somewhere maybe you don't even know. I'm about to go into this store. What does the energy feel like before I walk in there? I'm psychically practicing to read somebody else. What's something about their past that you can tell me, Spirit? Pull out a calendar. Guess what's coming up for you in the next month using your clairs. Guides, what's coming up for me this day? Write down anything that you get. One of my favorite games to play is putting an object inside of a bag or an envelope, like print out a piece of paper with an envelope, or even have somebody send you an email with a picture inside of it. And what you want to do, have somebody else put that in a bag for you, and you want to guess what's in the bag. What is in the bag? And go through each one of your clairs individually. Clairvoyantly, I want to see what's in the bag. Clairaudience, I want to hear what's in the bag. And you go down each one of your clairs individually and try to guess. Get a deck of playing cards, even the ESP Zener cards. Try to guess what the color is, what the suit is, what image is on those Zener cards. There's toys, there's games created for this. And side note, all the things I'm mentioning I have a whole video on, so if you want more detailed instructions, you can check them out. I think I have a playlist called Psychic Exercises. But when you're strengthening them, you're focusing on isolating each of those individual clairs And if you start to get it with another clair, you just say, no, 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 give it to me with this one. And just like your psychic ability, it takes time, it takes practice. You cannot do this once or twice and expect to all of a sudden be clairvoyant overnight. It comes with experience and long-term learning. And the last question that I often get is, why am I not getting anything? Why are my clairs not working? And the answer to this is maybe you're blocked. I mean, I don't know all the time individually what's going on. Maybe you're not getting centered. Maybe you're not getting present enough before you try to tune in and ask that question. Maybe your questions are not necessarily like good. Maybe you don't know quite how to turn your psychic ability on all of the way. There's lots of variables that can kind of get in your way of like fully receiving your clairs, but I promise you, when you start practicing and learning about the psychic ability and removing those blocks, they are going to start to work. And so that's where I come in to help. Again, feel free to peruse around my YouTube channel, learn more about it. I also have courses. I have the mini course coming up if you want to get in live and actually practice with some live exercises with me, or if you're really serious, you can jump into my video courses and really get started. I give you lots of homework, lots of things to do around it. And if you want something to really hold you accountable, I would highly recommend getting the Build Your Psychic Skills 90-day cards. These were made by my mentor, Karen Fox. I learned all about the clairs from her. These cards are created to basically teach you about your clairs and force you to choose one a day and work on them. If you do this after a couple weeks, I guarantee you, you're gonna see your psychic abilities develop. I will also link them down below. So what color were my flowers? Purple, kind of white also. They're a little bit of a mix. And hey, if you got it wrong, practice. That's where it comes in. That's where you get better. It's totally okay, totally normal. So let me know in the comments down below which clair you think that you have. Know that we also have a Patreon. You can get on there and practice reading others every single month. We do that as a group in a big live group call. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I will see you over in my other clairs videos. Alrighty, bye.